Guys, there are spoilers for this film and this review. So, if you don't want to end up on death's list, go out, watch the film, then come back. You have been warned. Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan Time HD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan Time HD, and this week we watched Final Destination Bloodlines, the newest installment in the Final Destination franchise. This movie was just very, very good, honestly. I just really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good return to form. You know, I really enjoyed it. It was really good return to form, like the first installment in over 10 years, or maybe 10 years, I don't remember, but it was very good. Probably one of my favorites in the entire franchise, honestly. The kills were great. I really like the side characters. I really like the jokes. But before I go on a whole tangent, but why I like this film, I'll tell you why I like this film and more. Back at the house.
I saved a lot of lives that night.
Everyone needs to get off the dance floor!
Lives that were never meant to be saved. But Death doesn't like it when you mess with his plans.
This book, it will show you everything you need to know to keep our family safe.
It all started with Grandma. Death is coming for us because we were never supposed to exist.
Watch out!
Only by embracing death will it pass you by.
Maybe Death's not actually coming for our family. Because that would be crazy.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I am your host, Ronan Time HD, and this week we watched Final Destination Bloodlines, the 6th installment in the Final Destination franchise, the first film since 5, which I believe was released at the very least 10 years ago. And even though this film franchise has not had a movie, or like basically anything in like 10 years, it's still the #1 movie in America, which is great, right? I really, really like this movie, and I honestly think it's a great addition to the Final Destination franchise. But before I go on that, let's go to the technical stuff. The directors were, it was Zach Lipovsky, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, and Adam Stein, also featuring, you know, the late, great Tony Todd, you know, which, it's a really bittersweet moment, but maybe I should just talk about it now, since I'm just talking about Tony Todd at this moment. So Tony Todd was in this movie, and he was a pretty important part of the movie. I mean, usually he's an important part of the movie. He usually teaches the characters the rules, right? The rules of, you know, death, basically. So in this movie, it kind of gives Tony Todd a Bloodworth, the mysterious character that knew so much about death in every movie. They give him a backstory and how he knows so much, right? So, Tony Todd, in this movie, there's a little kid at the beginning of the movie during the, opening premonition, right? The opening premonition, there's this little kid, and the grandma of the family that we follow throughout the film, it's revealed that obviously after, it's revealed that she saved everybody on that building. Right, but hundreds of people were supposed to die that day, right? But she saved them, right? She saved them, which again, not supposed to happen. Which, you know, the movie basically says that all the other Final Destination movies, I mean, there were hundreds of people there, so you could assume that everything that happened in all the Final Destination movies were because of that one catalyst, or maybe there could have been an even bigger event before, or there could have just been, one thing I really like about this film is that it implies that everything after this, after the premonition at the beginning of the movie, is what led to all the other Final Destination movies, but it never talks about the before, so there could have been Final Destination movies happening way before, the 60s or the 70s or whenever the premonition takes place, right? Which is also a really cool part of the movie, right? That's a really cool thing to me. But yeah, it's revealed that Tony Todd was the kid in that flashback, and it explains how he knows so much, how he knows the rules, and how he's able to give advice to the characters is because, well, the grandmother, they'd stay in touch, and they would, they connected, and they would basically just talk back and forth with the rules. They would help each other, and it was a nice send off, because at the end he has a little speech that is not scripted, right? He just kind of gives the audience themselves advice. He basically says, "I'm going to enjoy the time I have left, and I suggest that you do too. Life is precious, and you never know when. Good luck." Right? And it's really bittersweet, right? Because you could tell, even though it was great to see Tony Todd in the movie, you could tell he was sick, right? You could tell he looked, really bad, right? And not even as an insult, he looked, sick, right? And it's kind of sad, because it was great to see him, but there was just something there about it. And obviously he knew as well to give that little unscripted speech at the end. It was just it was a little sad and a bit emotional, right? Obviously this being one of Tony Todd's last projects. This is not his final project, but it's one of his last. But I think it's for all intents and purposes, I feel to me personally, this will be Tony Todd's last project to me, because it's a nice send off for him, I think. And I think the movie did a lot of respect to him. I really like how much the movie did to him. I really like that. But either way, how about the rest of the movie? After that little nice tribute to Tony Todd, who is a legend, and I love him, but I will continue to talk about the movie. With that being said, how did I enjoy it? I really liked it, right? Honestly, I feel like there was a lot of stuff in it that I just felt did such a good job at, I love the premise, right? I think this is honestly my favorite premise out of any Final Destination movie. Maybe aside from, obviously, the first movie. But in Final Destination Bloodlines, the whole, basically premise of the movie is that fucking 50 or so years ago, there was a Final Destination premonition, right? A whole Final Destination movie happened off screen, but the main character survived and was able to have a family, right? But these people were never meant to exist, right? So there was a whole family, a whole family tree that was never supposed to exist. And death, since they weren't supposed to exist, is going to eradicate all of them, which is a great premise, right? I love that premise. It's just I feel even though there are pretty much all the Final Destination movies are great except for 4, or just good. Some, if they're not great, they're just good, right? Or they're even serviceable. But I also think they're all also kind of similar in the fact that it's this group of high school kids that get into an accident, their friends die, whatever, and then they all get picked off one by one. There's the only relation is that they're usually friends, or maybe there's a brother or a sister or something, right? But it's never usually, it's always, not to knock on it, but it's usually always a similar premise, right? Just with some spices here and there. This one is I don't know, I just really love the idea, right? I really love it. I think they did it really well, because this movie does not pull any punches. This is probably, effects-wise, the best-looking Final Destination movie. The deaths are fucking brutal in this movie, right? They're pretty hard to watch, actually, because of how fucking brutal they are. I mean, there was one death in the movie that was, so gross. I was oh, God. I was Jesus. It looked great, mind you. It looked great, but it was disgusting, right? I mean, it's supposed to be, right? But it was great. And I don't think there was one bad death in this movie. Not that I can think of. I think most of them were just good to great, like I said. I really liked the ending, too. Because obviously, I think one of my favorite parts about Final Destination is there is no happy ending. Right? You can't escape death. I think that's one thing I like, is that it's a horror movie. Most horror movies don't have happy endings to begin with. Right? But I also think that this movie did a similar thing to Final Destination 2, to where the main character died. She drowned in the water and she died, but then she was resuscitated, and so a way to beat death is to die, to break the cycle is to die, and then come back, right? So you technically, your life bring new life is the whole idea. You get new life, or to kill someone, and you take the time that they have left. So really, you could kill a baby. Like, they imply in the movie that you could kill a baby and get all their time that they have left, which is a little messed up, right? But it's not a little, it's pretty messed up. But, oh yeah, I really like the ending. I almost forgot what I was saying. I really like the ending with the logs, you know, because it just happens like that. Where obviously the train comes, so like a train derails because of a penny. The penny that started it all at the beginning of the movie, that fucking annoying ass dipshit kid. I hated that kid. That the opening of the movie, I hated him. He was such a little shit. But he grabs a penny from a fountain, right? And that causes the accident and the premonition. And it causes the final accident that kills the main characters at the end. And I love that. It's a nice little full circle moment. I really like that. I like the full circle moment with the penny causing the disaster, or like in the premonition at the beginning, to causing the death of the main characters at the end. I really like that. And one thing I really also liked about the death of the main characters at the end was how, like, abrupt it was. Because, like, they were, like, running away from, like, train wreckage, and then, boom, they were just popped like grapes, right? Like, due to logs, ironically. I really do like the reference to the log truck. Because there is a log truck earlier in the movie that's a good little reference. And I also like how the log kills them at the very end. A nice little callback. But also the other deaths. There was the death that really, like, grossed me out the most. The other ones didn't gross me out as much, but this one was the grossest one, was Eric's death. His death was so, like, nasty, right? Because, like, so, there's an MRI machine, and he's getting, since he has piercings all over him, right? He's getting pulled into the MRI machine, right? Like, all his piercings get pulled out of his MRI, out of his face due to the, like, massive magnetism from the MRI machine. And then there's a wheelchair in the room, so it fucking just boom, just slams right into him, and it stabs into him, and then like he gets sucked into the MRI machine with the wheelchair. It wouldn't be so bad if it didn't cut into the MRI and you could like see the wheelchair popping out of his skin, and it was gross. I'm just gonna say that. Like I don't usually get grossed out by movies that much. All the other deaths were fine, but that one just, like, was super gross. And I liked it, right? But it was... Ugh. I don't know, I just think, like, something about, like, the skin, like, the wheelchair... Like, it didn't pop out of the skin immediately. Like, you could see it, like, stretching the skin. Ugh. Ugh. I mean, man, the movie was... This is the bloodiest Final Destination movie I've ever seen. Like, the effects were incredible. I mean, this movie had a $50 million budget... And I feel like most of that budget went to the effects. I mean, obviously, paying, like, other stuff, but I feel like the effects were, like, really good. Oh, man. I also really liked the characters. You know, I really liked how, you know, I cared about the side characters, right? Usually in a Final Destination movie, the only characters I care about are, like, the main people, right? The side characters that get killed, I couldn't really care that much about, right? Because, I mean, they're just cannon fodder. Right? They're just cannon fodder until the main characters realize what's happening, right? So they're not that important. But I feel like, one thing, I think they develop the side characters more in this one. So, I mean, other ones are less developed than others. I mean, Uncle Howard was on screen for maybe like 20 minutes. Maybe not even that. But he was just a nice dude, kinda, right? I mean, him getting his fucking head, like, fucking... I just realized there was a scene before that where there was a blender, like, blending juice and shit, and his head got blended by a lawnmower. Live reaction to me realizing foreshadowing. And it's not a stupid dream sequence that completely spoils the death of the character. That, imagine, foreshadowing without being obvious. But, or was it foreshadowing or was it after? No, it was foreshadowing, wasn't it? Yeah, it was foreshadowing. But I also really liked Eric. He was really funny. Because in the trailer, if you remember the first trailer, like, he's in the tattoo shop. And, like, a chain swings down and goes onto, like, a nose piercing. And, like, he gets stuck on the fan. And then, like, alcohol gets all over the floor and it starts to ignite and it burns. And it cuts away. And he falls down, like, near the fire. And you just assume that he dies, right? But he didn't. He's fine. And he ends up being the funniest character in the movie. And there's a really funny scene where it's revealed that he's not the dad who died earlier, he's not his biological son, which means he's not on death's list, which means he does have a reason to exist. He should exist, right? So he's not on death's list, even though he dies later, but it's death by proxy. There was this dude, and the mom's like, he's like, that was your father. And he was like, what? And he was just like getting really mad about it, but it was funny. And he was just like, so that's why I wanted to play catch all the time. And it was just funny. The whole theater laughed, and I laughed too. You just have to watch the movie. It was funny, all right? And Eric was just a funny character the whole time. I mean, obviously, he was going to die. Because, I mean, every side character dies in Final Destination. So, obviously, he was going to die. And his death scene was gnarly. Probably the gnarliest death scene in the movie, so I'm not going to go on a whole tangent about all the characters. I'm just saying I named one example of a side character that I liked. But I liked the other side characters, too. And I thought that they were good, and I didn't want them to die, right? I was attached to them. And that's a problem with a lot of other Final Destination movies, is that they're expendable, but in this movie, they had character traits. I mean, the other ones did, but they were whatever. You get what I mean. But either way, I don't know, I just thought this was a really well-constructed film. I think it's honestly one of my favorites of the franchise. Honestly, I think it's definitely one of my favorites. Where does it go from here? I don't know. Does it go from here? I mean, the movie is really successful, so they could make a sequel, but will it be as good as this one? I don't know, and I genuinely don't really know where they, as I said, I don't know how they would continue on. It'd be a little strange to do that. I mean, maybe they could carry on the book from this movie, like the notes from the grandma. Maybe they could do that. That could work in teaching the main characters the rules, right? I'm going on a tangent here. All I'm saying is, this was a good Final Destination movie. I'd say top 3, for me in the franchise. So, would I recommend this film? Yeah, I would. If you are a fan of the Final Destination franchise, for sure. I think it is a great addition to the franchise. If you're trying to get into the Final Destination franchise, I feel like you should watch the previous movies to get more context. I feel like this one feels a bit like a conclusion, so I feel like you'd get a better experience if you watched the previous movies. Even if you're just like a horror movie fan, though, you could definitely get a bunch of enjoyment out of this film. And the whole franchise as a whole, mainly. But, with that being said, what would I rate this film? I think I would rate this film a 7.5 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I've said my piece. I think I've said what I need to say. So, guys, hope you like this video. Share, friends, subscribe, turn notifications on. Comment on what you liked it. But you guys know how it goes. I didn't really say that. What I really meant to say. So, if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe, hate me in the comments. And I've been with G. Off to enjoy what little time I have left. Good luck. Oh, shit. So, this is not as a comedic, last thing, but Tony Todd was in this movie, obviously. He's in, every Final Destination movie. But, he had a little monologue, a little speech in his final scene. And apparently it was unscripted. The director just told him, speak from the heart to the audience. And it was, knowing that context, it was kind of emotional, because Tony Todd wasn't speaking in character. He was just speaking as Tony Todd, and, it was just emotional. I don't know what to say. Rest in peace, Tony Todd, man. Rest in peace. Legend. We love you. I really wish I had, a way to, throw it so that it would ricochet off the wall and, hit me. That would be perfect. If only we had, a special effects crew. We could, make it look like I could throw it. And then